Welcome back to Making It Awkward. I'm your host, Jessica Wilson. Today, I bring you my chat with Kent Thomas, a social worker and a white gay dad. You might remember him from an earlier episode called Ultra-Processed Parenting. Kent was on the show talking about feeding his son infant formula and not worrying about whether it was an ultra-processed food. For those who listened to the end of the last episode, you heard me say that today's episode was supposed to be with my spouse. And the two of us tried to record an episode and it fully flopped. We didn't like the end result, so we're going to re-record and see if we can find a rhythm of Q&A versus a weaving and winding conversation and bring it to you next week. Today, Kent and I will discuss the overlap between Christianity, health, queerness, and eating disorders. But first, we start by talking about an ad that he saw for a New York City men's health clinic offering a screaming deal on Ozempic. For Pride Month, you could get 50% off your weekly shots. We talked about how we both didn't think the ad was real at first, not just due to the content, but how it looks. It's a seafoam green ad with a rainbow graphic splitting the image in half. The top section has what we can assume to be a man, only shown from his nipple line down to his hips. He doesn't have any clothes on and has been described to me as a white, thin, conventionally attractive, twink-ish guy. Layered over the rainbow graphic is the word Ozempic, and below it the text says, "Weekly Ozempic shots. Be your leanest for the parade. $90 per injection, 50% off during Pride Month," and their website below that. The whole thing looked like someone had made it as a joke and pasted the clinic's logo and website on the image. The ad also wasn't posted to their social media for at least the first week of Pride Month. Our conversation begins with an Instagram reel that Kent made about his thoughts on the Ozempic ad.
Happy 2024, almost Pride Month, where we get ads for Ozempic to lose weight for Pride, which is a fucking nightmare. And it's also par for the course for Pride Month commercials and all that, telling us to change our bodies to have a good Pride Month. Fuck Ozempic for losing weight. That's just, there's some wild side effects that I think would cause a pretty shitty Pride Month. But all that aside, my hope for us this Pride Month is that we can really celebrate our abundance and our presence in this world. The ideal for abs and thinness is nothing but an ideal of absence. It's an absence of flesh, absence of pleasure, absence of abundance, absence of are just existing in our bodies. My hope for us is that we can celebrate our presence and our abundance. And when we're reminded of these ideals of thinness and abs, I hope that we can gently touch the parts of our bodies that we've been told to change, and to remember that our queerness is beautiful because it breaks culturally constructed norms. And our bodies can be wonderful and revolutionary because of how they exist outside of norms of sexual desirability or anti-fat bias. I'm sending lots of love this Pride Month. This can be a hard time with body stuff. And while we can continue to do our internal work for liberation, it's equally as important to do our external work, standing shoulder to shoulder against anti-fat bias and all this shit that makes it really hard to be a queer person with a body in this world. So yeah, sending love, sending abundance and presence, and happy Pride, and fuck Ozempic. Bye.
I just happened to be traveling to New York City a few days after watching this reel. So I did what I do. I decided to pop into the clinic and ask them questions. I share what I found with Kent and all of you today. After his initial reel, Kent decided to record and post a video every day for Pride Month called Connection Over Conquest, where he explores queerness and body stuff, especially for queer men. He examines body norms, desirability, politics, anti-fatness, abundance, community, and connection, all in 90 seconds or less. And now, here's my conversation with Kent. Kent, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Jessica. It's really great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We have so much to discuss. let's tee it off with a discussion of the Ozempic ad. Yeah, let's talk about what happened or what did you feel when you first saw the ad?
Yeah, I thought it was a joke, honestly. Like until you went to the actual place, which is I'm excited to talk about that. Like that's so funny that you did that. I truly thought it was like someone making something up.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked up their social media before posting the thing and they didn't have that many followers. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, is this a real
Mm-hmm.
thing? Or since it looked like it was an actual ad, it felt like saying something about
Mm-hmm.
it. So I think that was my first reel with like an actual like graphic
Yeah.
or like something included. I felt kind of proud
Uh-huh.
about that I learned how to do
Yeah.
that. And yeah, it was just like super annoying to see that. Like it just is like, of course there's going to be pride things with Ozempic now. And it's just like par for the
Mm-hmm.
course for the anti-fat pride
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But then it's just, yeah, a different iteration with Ozempic.
Repeat, but now it's pharmaceutical. Cool. Okay, so yes, I looked up Soho Men's Health and it was a real place, and B, I was going to New York in like 3 days. Like, I gotta find a way to get in there because the ad quality is not that good.
No,
It's really
it
not.
was not.
And I was like, is this a joke? Like, did people put your name on this? Is this like a real ad or is this just like clickbait for people to come in?
Yes.
I was like,
Yes.
I want to know. So I walked in. It's like, it was on the 17th floor of a building that is very pretty in the financial district. And I needed to like say why I was there. And I was like, if I say Soho Men's Health, they're just not going to let me in. But they did. So I go up, yes, to the floor and get off. It is this teeny tiny little office. Like the reception person, maybe like a assistant in the back, but then the doctor was just like right there. So we were maybe like 15 feet apart, but like having a full conversation. And I was like, all right, just tell me, tell me about this promotion. And he was so happy to tell me how this was, like a boot camp for anybody who was just like interested and maybe had like thought about it. I pretended that I was there on behalf of you.
Thank you.
I said that, my friend saw the ad. He lives in Brooklyn and was just, really wondering like if this was real or if I could get more information for him because he was kind of nervous. And they were like, absolutely. Yes. We're happy to tell you that we're offering this for Pride for people to quote, look their best. Okay. He asked if my friend needed to lose weight, just as general. I said, no. But he did see the, body in this ad and was just like, I didn't say you wanted to look like the body in the ad, but like clearly that body was a thin guy using Ozempic. So like, what was this about? Yep.
Yes,
and he was like, that's fine. We'll just put him on the lowest dose. And then after 3 or 4 shots, he can lose a few pounds and just, look great for Pride. And I was like, you're marketing a few pounds of weight loss that will cost $360. I was like,
right.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Shit. Yeah, that ad is like, it is so annoying because it doesn't matter if it was a thin person or a fat person. It's like just so infuriating that they're just like creating this norm that like before Pride, you should restrict and shrink your body. Yeah, I'm still shocked you went. I did not. I also thought that was a joke. You were going to go. But then you're texting me like, I'm on my way. So yeah, I did not know that it was like such a small office and that the doctor was just like there
chilling.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, there's just something so insidious about that because it sounds like he was really trying to be super caring and honestly, he probably thinks he's doing the best thing possible.
Correct.
And it's especially hard to know how to push back on things when people feel like they're doing the best, but it's contributing to a lot of pain and like it's just continuing with the status quo. So yeah, it's hard to hear that.
He told me that I could buy Ozempic at CVS for $3,000 to $4,000, but he was offering it for $90. I didn't want to ask how that math worked out for him, but I did go online for CVS. It looks like it's and other places like $1,000. So, $3,000 to $4,000 shock value. Great. What I didn't ever find was that I needed, or I could just ask for it like I would Sudafed, or I actually needed a prescription. So I was like, I'm still not sure about this math. Curious. I'm glad. But this doctor's like assessment of Ozempic had nothing to do with like insulin and glucagon and like all the hormonal changes that go on in the body. It was just that you wanted to eat less.
Sure. Yeah.
That's it. He did mention the food noise, but that just made you eat less. So for him, like 1 month of eating less would lead to 3 to 4 pounds of weight loss in order to make you look your best for Pride.
Right. And then it's like this food noise I'm hearing more like, is that hunger? Is that just like, are we talking about hunger
right.
that we're quieting?
So my only very like specific and thorough explanation of this came through Oprah's special. And yes, I understand that, people may feel like they have food noise, but her example was, so there are people that don't think about what they're going to eat for their next meal. It was like, okay, there are people who don't like plan a vacation and start thinking about what they're going to eat there. And I was like, okay. There are people who aren't like planning their next snack or like, it was just like all of the, and I'm like, I have food noise. Like, this is what I'm hearing because I'm always thinking about these things. I go to places for the food. Like, what?
Well, and this is part of being human. It's like, yeah, I'm going to have to eat soon and I need to know what I'm going to eat.
Yeah. Or else I'm going to get a divorce because I become a terrible person. Like, so that's food noise, apparently.
Okay. Huh. Yeah. So I guess that is kind of a funny thing. Like some people go on vacation and they don't know where they're going to stay in the night. Like that's a great thing. Like that you don't plan or think about. Huh. I also thought you needed a prescription for this. Like I was pretty shocked that you could just go, I guess is the doctor writing the prescription?
No.
Yeah, that's confusing to me.
No, he's just got it in the clinic like any other like enhancement, of which there are many.
Right. They had a lot.
Yes. Yeah. If you have a referral, that's when you go to CVS. But if you just want to get it, you can go to his clinic.
I randomly saw this Trixie Mattel and Katya their show. Trixie was talking about Ozempic and she's on it. And just like how it's just such a normal part of like the queer, gay, we'll say gay men probably, but who knows what. It does feel like a bummer that with queerness and gay men, like in an ideal world, I feel like queerness would be such an expansion and like fuck these things that are making us stay small. And this like Ozempic, it sounds like there's some side effects or just things that are questionable. And then like for the rest of your life, you need to get this shot. And yeah, I don't know. It's feels kind of sad.
Yeah.
And it's inevitable that rainbow capitalism stuff will come into this as well. It's a way to make some money.
So you saw this ad and texted me and were like, I'm nervous about making a reel. And like 3 days later, you're like, I'm going to make a reel every day for Pride Month. How did that transition come about?
Thank you that's a good question. Why did that happen? I think, well, I've been like on literally for like a couple 2 to 3 years, I've been meaning to put more stuff out there. And with seeing that ad, I was like, okay, let's try this, see what it's like. And it did take a while to do and it took some effort, but I also appreciated being able to put something out there that I would want to see on the interwebs. And so with Pride Month coming up, I was like, okay, if I do one daily, maybe I can try not to care about what the quality is, what the engagement is. And I'm not doing any of the like images in the thing. It says talking for a minute and a half. And then I slap a thing on it and go. And it's been a good challenge for me because it's helping me be less precious about what I post and put up
What a
there, that I
word.
don't need to.
That's
Thank you.
good.
And like that it's okay for something to be half baked or to say a thing multiple times. And yeah, so I'm having some fun with it, and it's also not like what I love to spend time on, like the editing and stuff. But I think after this it'll help me feel more like consistent, and hopefully doing like one a week or something, because I really do find it meaningful to put stuff out there. And the like DMs I get from other queer men who are like, thank you for saying this, like it feels like it's a meaningful thing to me, and hopefully it's connecting with others. So
That's so nice. Oh, that's great.
It's
you seem to do it in one take.
Well, yes, it doesn't take just one take, but I do it in one. Sometimes I'll have to try it like 10 times.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's just poor quality that it's one take, that it seems like one take.
No, I mean, like, you don't like splice it or edit it. Like, you just,
I don't splice
you
it.
go for
I don't
90
know how,
seconds and that's it.
Yeah, I don't know how to edit or splice, but yeah, sometimes it'll take a few, because I'll say like, there's so many takes of me, I just like go a weird way, and then I'm like, I'm saying something weird right now. I need to stop. So yeah, but it has been a fun challenge of like how to communicate things. Yeah, we'll see how the rest of the month goes. It's like not halfway done yet. And
no, I know, it's great. How do you come up with 30 different things? It's so great. You like say one thing that branches into another. I love it. It's so fun. Highly recommend.
Thank you, Jessica. That's very kind. I think it has been a fun thing to expound on some things that like I've noticed in this so far, the ones I've done and planning for the ones to come, that it's kind of flowed pretty easily. That over the years I've spent a lot of time, whether it's working with clients or reading, where like I have these thoughts and let's put them out there and see if they connect with people. Like I only know what feels helpful to me, and like so to let's like put things out there and see if that, and it's like really helpful to look back on books, like the section on the bookshelf of like books I've read, like your book, It's Always Been Ours, and other ones like Belly of the Beast, and just a bunch of books. Even just like looking at the shelf, it's a reminder of things that have been meaningful and helped me in my process. So yeah,
I'm so impressed. I got to the one with philosophers and theologists, and I was like, wait, what? So with the philosopher, like, did that just come to your brain? Like, is that something you hold on to? Because I would have to Google that. Let me just tell you.
So yeah, I did have to Google. Apparently I said Descartes wrong. I said Descartes. Okay. And then someone commented and was like, it's Descartes. And I was like, dude, I hope he doesn't see this. Like, I don't think he cares. Yeah, so that was something that reading it, I feel like I read it every now and then. Like this book, The Wisdom of Your Body by Hilary McBride was talking about it. I feel like Sabrina Strings definitely talked about it in Fear in the Black Body. This like kind of puritanical urge in the US that has deeper roots hundreds of years before then. Yes, I did know the Descartes, like body-mind dualism, but I did need to look up, like, is that for real or am I making this up? So, and I think for me personally, I think about that a lot because it's like these things feel so ingrained. And in the church I grew up in, it was just like such an intense thing of like the body is shameful. You need to control the animal self. Your mind is kind of the pure thing that your spirit, if your spirit is strong, you'll be able to control your body kind of thing. So it felt like such a relief to learn that that wasn't a one-off. It wasn't like something I made up in my mind. It was something that like has had a long history in Western culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why it's stuck with me.
No, it's good. Thanks for transitioning a bit to the personal, because I was going to follow up the theology with please tell us how you met your now husband.
We met on Grindr. No, we met at gay Bible study, about as far from Grindr as one could get. Actually, not so far, but there was quite a bit of hooking up going on in those Christian gay worlds. But yeah, Mike and I met at a gay Bible study back in 2014. And it was at that time I had like just come out. It was a pretty like weird coming out where I was working at a Christian place and they fired me. And I was just kind of like looking for something that could kind of combine my Christian past with kind of like the queerness that I was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time I was still a Christian. So the first time I went there, it was like such a feeling like seen and understood. Mm-hmm. And like I was going into some like secret cave of just people who kind of knew what I was experiencing. And then Mike was there, LOL, playing the guitar. I think like leading worship, literally, which is so funny. But then I introduced myself, and he doesn't remember that. But from the beginning, I was zoned in.
Okay.
It took a second for me to get on his radar.
What's a second?
Well, we were at that group. Then it took a month for us to be back at the same one. Like I was gone, then he was gone, blah, blah, blah. Then that week later, we all went dancing on Capitol Hill. And I think that helped me get on his radar because I'm such a good dancer. No,
I can imagine. Yes, I see it. Yes.
But yeah, so so neither of us are Christians anymore and feel really like great about not being in that world, but it's like really, it's been pretty nice to have a shared past and we can understand the experience. And it's like weird how I grew up in Washington, he grew up in Michigan, just like how similar those experiences are. Just like evangelicalism is kind of like such a force.
And we haven't said here, but you've been open about having had an eating disorder. And how did that like conversation be navigated, negotiated in your like religion and relationship because of all those Venn diagrams there? Yeah.
The Venn diagrams are very intertwined with the Christianity I grew up in and body stuff. I was just talking with my mom this morning. There was like a church, kind of a sermon series that was about weight loss and kind of like fitness. And that we were just talking about how many eating disorders that created, how it's like putting the God stamp on all this stuff that is out there already. And I know for me, it really started in high school where I feel like somewhere in me, I knew there was this queerness kind of like existing and being in ways that I didn't want to be. And like being good in like ways of body stuff. Speaking of Descartes and all the like, theologians, like the ways to control my urges around like, of course, in youth group, so much talk about masturbation, about like not masturbating.
You told me this.
Yes. And it like you have accountability partners, like you check in.
Wait, pause. What? Was Mike your accountability partner? Tell me he was.
No. At the time Mike and I met, there was no part of that was a part of the Bible study.
That sounds like a romance novel that needs to be written. Totally. Okay, sorry, back to you and like these groups where people are not masturbating. Yeah.
So it's like, don't masturbate, don't like be gluttonous, quote unquote. Okay. A youth pastor, once I got something that was apparently too much to him, and he was like saying how it was gluttonous, like as I was eating, and I'm like, dude, back off.
No.
You're like 26, dude, and I'm in high school. Like, who the fuck are you? Just all the intertwining things where like religion brought on a lot of guilt and shoulds with body stuff, and then it just kind of dovetails perfectly into health stuff. Like, and then it was one of those things. It's like queerness coming out, that there was an increase in body stuff around like my short stint on Grindr. Like definitely there was a lot of body shaming going on there. And it's interesting how like Christianity, the medical world, gayness, and like gay dating apps, like there's all, it's kind of like all pushing in the similar direction towards like body conquest rather than just like our bodies. I think that's kind of an interesting.
Can you say more about the health stuff?
Yeah, in general, it feels like, well, backing up to religion, I was taught that, like, at least implicitly taught that if it felt good, if like you wanted it, then it was bad. If you didn't want to go, if you didn't want to do this thing, that was God telling you you should. Like, there's this kind of like mistrust of your desires. And so similarly with health stuff, there's a lot of like mistrust of desires, like our desire for rest. No, you should get X amount of steps. Desire for food that you like. No, you should have kale and quinoa. And that there's this mistrust of our desires. At least that was my experience. And so with medical stuff, feeling the need to resist our, again, animal urges, quote unquote, and like for the sake of physical health, that's such a gold stamp of approval that you can get from pastors, from doctors, from family. It's just, yeah. And then also having a seizure disorder as a kid, there was a lot of mistrust of my body, like just all my neurology appointments were like, how do we not have my body do that? And so it's like this control, this fear of, did I take my medicine, EEGs, like as a kid, just like not being able to sleep at night. Like, what the fuck? That really, so yeah, there's just so many things where it was like controlling my body, and it comes from a lot of different areas. You know, it's the queerness thing, it's Christian stuff, medical stuff. And as I talk about queer men, I think I also try to keep that in mind, that it's really not just like our queerness, but there's like so many other ways that existing in a body is hard. And yeah.
Something that you and I have talked about is just the expectation that we should not die. Like, if we do all these things right, we will not die.
Yeah. And it's just this, like, again, back to religion, like it's like this eternal life, this like not dying or extending our life, or not dying for the wrong reasons. Like, oh, if you die from old age, that's fine. But if you die from this thing, like, it's your fault. What an interesting thing. It is terrifying to think that like the world will keep going on once we're gone. But yeah, it makes, for those, I don't know who thought to say this first, but the thing of like how body stuff, or diet stuff, fitness culture, whatever, is kind of an offshoot of religious stuff, where there's this fervor and morality to it. And that feels pretty accurate. Yeah. What do you think about the, like, trying to have death not exist in your...
Oh yeah. And I think it's fancier now. It's biohacking now, right? It's blood transfusions from your son. It's like, what hospital was that in? Or was that in your like garage?
I know, yeah. That's great.
And then NPR's like series on longevity and Eat Like a Peasant. Like, so yeah. And like these communities live to be, 100. And it's like, really, I want everything they have, which is like not stress, connected community, not so heavily reliant on capitalism. Like, that sounds amazing. But what we're going to talk about instead is all these things that can supposedly change.
Right.
So yes, I feel like over and over again, we're taught exactly what you said. If we die, it's our fault, unless we're like over 100. The end.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, and even those, like, they Eat Like a Peasant, they're like, oh, instead of an afternoon espresso, take a nap. It's like you said, those people had some amazing stuff that would just like make life better, whether you lived longer or not.
Yeah, they sounded great. Yeah, with the longevity and not dying, like we've decided now that it can also cost a ton of money. Not only are we supposed to be healthy and live forever, we're supposed to like invest all of our money in like ways to do so and our time and our energy. So rather than like becoming smaller with dieting and having like now we can take Ozempic, that's easy. And now we can like focus on living forever and spending the money and energy into that.
Yeah, and all this like tracking of things, like close your circles, close like whatever the things on the watches.
Your circles.
What is it?
Your rings, but this was great. I knew exactly what.
And it's like we're tracking our sleep, we're tracking our this,
yeah.
and by we I don't mean I. That would stress me out to track all that. But this like thing of it's back to that personal responsibility thing where. Yeah, I know for me that focusing on that stuff takes the joy out of my life. And I think the stress it brings is not going to help me live longer. I don't think.
Probably not.
Yeah, I do think I think about death a lot. And I think that's I think it's in a helpful way. I think there's something really just helpful in realizing like we're not the center of the universe and the world is just going to keep spinning and we're not that important. Like that's pretty liberating. Yeah.
I initially asked about eating disorder and navigation and relationship as well. So what's like the gay community eating disorder relationship like overlap?
Thankfully, as far as relationship stuff, Mike has been he has been so supportive in this. And I'm really thankful that like he's learned alongside me.
Okay.
Like early on, there were things that I was doing that were disordered that like kind of just went along with the like, oh, go you kind of thing. And so for Mike to kind of go along with that learning, both for myself and for him of like, why do we celebrate this or that? And yeah, so really thankful for that. And every now and then it takes some patience of like, he doesn't know what he doesn't know till I tell him. And yeah, I have noticed in the like amongst gay couples, the ideal would be, that it's kind of a mutual journey of that. And then it's really hard when I'm thinking of one person in particular, like they are on this journey of realizing how hard this is and their partner, it's either not impacting them as much or they're getting what they want from this thing. And it's like, that's a hard place to be. And at that point, it feels like there's a different set of values and how do you navigate that? But yeah, there's especially, and then in the gay world and community stuff, when we like, hear Trixie Mattel just talking about Ozempic and all the jokes that can be said about body size and all that. I've noticed when I say something that like is hopefully more supportive of body, just like being in our bodies and stuff, people love it. Like I think just like we all have this desire to feel more embodied and to change these things. One of my topics coming up is going to be the pit crew. Do you watch Drag Race?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. So the pit crew grinds my gears because it's like this epitome.
Wait, I need to pause for that pun. Okay. If anybody needs to rewind it, I don't think you meant it. Okay, keep going.
I also accidentally said in an earlier day, men suck a lot about body stuff, and I was like, wait, that means different things. Anyways, the pit crew, it's like this. It's such a specific body that, at least by the show, presented as the epitome of sexiness, hotness, and that it's like, yeah, that's an ideal of body conquest, of like forcing our bodies to look and be a certain way. And it's very, this is very Dove body positivity, like zone. It's like, it's not going to change the world for the pit crew to be more diverse, but let's start somewhere and like explore what it's like for bodies to be desirable of different, that aren't just like the pit crew bodies. Anyways, yeah, I noticed as we talk about this, a lot of it is the personal stuff. And it's like, yeah, what about the bigger picture stuff? But I guess this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's so many conversations. We could have a gazillion, and this is the one that you and I are having.
Right.
In one of your videos, you were talking about Sean Cody vibes. And can you speak a bit to hardness of gay bodies and the history behind that?
That's something that a couple of years ago I started to connect just in my mind, that there's so much focus on hardness, the hard muscles, the chokehold that abs has on queer men and just men in general, people. It's like abs. It's like such an intense thing.
Abs.
It is. It's like a thing. And I didn't include this on video, but like hard penis, like hard things. And I think there's a book I read a while ago called The Denial of Death that talks about how like our softness is a reminder that we're animals. Like these Greek statues that are full of muscle and strength that'll last for forever. The softness of our body is just this reminder that we're like less than an inch into our bodies. We're this soft, like vulnerable thing. And it's like, it's so terrifying to be like, holy shit. So like to try to have this strong outer, like godly thing. So that's the more like esoteric, deeper stuff. Then it's just like, yeah, there's like my friend, Dr. Jeff Giovannoni is a queer historian. He talks about like how HIV AIDS has impacted this, where the wasting of HIV AIDS led to a like direct desire to try to look opposite of that, to try to signal not having HIV AIDS, just all the like ableist stuff, the cis sexism, how like there's this like focus on tall, straight lines, straight, like just the like ideal quote unquote like male body that is pretty exclusive of white, European, tall, thin people. So yeah, hardness. And then it's like, what does that do for, I know for me, thinking about hardness with my body and like wanting that, it has me at odds with my body, where like my body is going to have softness. My body is going to change as time goes on. And it just has me at war with the reality of my body. And that doesn't feel good. So for me, it's not helpful. Maybe for some it is, but I haven't met them yet.
I didn't realize that that guy was your friend. I was watching your video and I was like, how is Kent saying this name so fluidly and comfortably? Is it's been practiced? But it seems like, yes, it has.
Yes. And I hope he'll let me know. I've asked him before and I think it's Giovannoni.
Okay.
Yeah. But he and I met because we met kind of through this stuff where he was on a podcast that I listened to, and this was like 4-5 years ago. So he lives in New York. We've never met IRL, but yeah.
We could have gone to that health clinic together. That would have been something.
Yes.
Do you want to share anything about queer men and eating disorders?
At least, the research says there's a pretty disproportionate level of like queer to heterosexual men. Like queer men tend to have higher rates of eating disorders. Also, I think, is that true? Like, I think also straight men have quite a bit of body shit too. Yeah. And so I don't think that distinction is like super necessary or helpful. I think bottom line is that, yeah, there's weirdness with body stuff. And I think for men, and that it's encouraged and kind of like understood a lot, whether it's the keto, the body hacking, the creatine, there's just a lot of like normalization of disordered stuff that for me, like going down that road is not a life I want to live. So trying to offer something different out there. And yeah, I would say if people are hearing this, like queer men, please reach out. And I just think, yeah, we can organize more, like talk more openly and get some of this taken care of. Yeah.
Fix it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to share?
Let's see. I think as I talk about this stuff, I can get kind of like, I can say a lot of words and a lot of things that have been helpful for me and thoughts that are helpful for me. And at the end of the day, I hope people will just kind of consider what's helpful for each individual. Because, yeah, we're all just like doing our best out here. Oh my God. Deb said something on your podcast that like a month ago. It was something like, and Dr. Bergard, for those, that she said, like, we're all just doing our best and like, we're all just like kind of fucking around and seeing how we can do this. And I think that's how I think about bodies, like what works for us, what doesn't, what feels generally life-giving, what doesn't. And it can be really discouraging. I know for me, I talk and think about this stuff all the time. And then I'm still like, oh, I see a thing. And then I'm like wrapped up in all these thoughts again. And like, it feels discouraging sometimes to be so stuck in all these things. And I hope we can like be gentle with ourselves. And then it's like, yeah, a lot of this won't be different until big things change that like can't happen overnight. But hopefully being gentle with ourselves and like kind of being in our bodies and our softness and sort of leaning into the things that we tend to try to avoid. I know that's been helpful for me, and I hope people are having a good time out there.
Yeah, are you going to Pride?
Yes. Tacoma Pride is in July. So we did finally decide we're going to have a babysitter till midnight that night. So we'll go out. We won't get too crazy because we have to be back at midnight, but that'll be fun. And then my friend Anita Spritzer is a drag queen / opera singer at the Seattle Opera. So she's doing a show in drag recital that I'm going to go to in Seattle at the end of the month. So that'll be the Seattle Pride thing.
Wow. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Are you doing much for Pride?
I will be at SF Trans March at Dolores Park, tabling for work.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
And yes, I think that will be the extent of my big Pride activities. But a throuple friend of mine is going to have a 10-year anniversary party the next day at like a farm where we might be able to pick fruit, and then an after party at a casino nearby where we can like swim and eat. And so pool party, dinner, gambling if we want to. So yeah, a very queer time will be had by all that weekend.
That's so much queerer than any Pride. That's so
awesome. So how can people find you?
People can find me on at Kent Thomas MSW on Instagram. And I am very recently on TikTok. I think also on that same handle, I think.
Next.
Yes, that's it. Kent Thomas MSW. When we had a baby, I deleted my website because I thought I wouldn't be doing things anymore. But now I'm like, wait, I want to be doing these things. So that was a mistake. So don't try to find a website for me. But yeah, Instagram or TikTok. And I'm around and
DM you, just being
DM me, and that's the only way.
It was a delight having you on again. And if people aren't following your series, I went back. I was feeling like I had a lot of work to do to catch up, but it was delightful. I just was sitting there going through day 1, day 2, and I just kept going and it was building. And I was like, this is like a book and book chapters. So if people are coming in at the end of the month, it's still totally worth it to start on day 1 and go through the whole thing.
Speaking of book, if you're a publisher, editor, DM me especially.
Why would they do that?
I have no idea.
Because you want to write a book. Oh my gosh.
No, that was a joke. I'm working on a book proposal and I want to write this book. We need this book. I need this book.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica. I love chatting with you. It's so thankful to be your friend. And yeah.
Thanks so much to Kent for coming back on the show and talking about a very awkward ad. I'll link to his social media content and a photo of that ad in the show notes. Now, I'm still not sure what food noise is, and I'm interested in finding out. If folks have personal experience with food noise, I'd love to know how you describe it. I'm going to do some investigating on this one. I'll let you know what I find. Thanks so much for listening. Continue to make it awkward, friends. This has been Making It Awkward. The best way to support the show is by rating, reviewing, and sharing it with a friend. You can become a sustaining Patreon member of the show, linked in the show notes, which will support the editing and episode mixing of the sensational Jen Jacobs. This is a production of The Body Politic and is supported by Patreon members and the Legacy of Sacramento Outboard Services.
So, yeah, nobody noticing that. And also feel free to edit that part out if you want. Edit all of this.
Or move, just take everything out, cancel this entire thing.
Take everything. Actually, can we just stop? Okay. I started to realize I shouldn't say the name of the church, maybe. But, okay, let me start.
I'll say, is there anything else you want to share?
Sure, yeah. I'll see what comes out.
Jen, let's put that at the end. It'll be like, cut everything out. And also, let's see what comes out.